Welcome back to the program. It's the Vicki McKenna Show. I have attorney Corey Brewer from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty on the show to talk about a really infuriating situation in Wisconsin, in a town called Pittsville, Wisconsin, that a mother endured based on treatment of her disabled daughter. So, Corey, first, before we get to the details of the story, thanks for coming on the show. Happy New Year. Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
So I'm just going to kind of paint the picture here. You've got a mom with a physically disabled daughter. She was in a wheelchair. How old was she? She looked like she was about 5 or so.
She was about 4 at the time.
Okay. She's a little 4-year-old girl, cutest little thing, but she's in a wheelchair. And at school, in a musical performance of some kind at her school, the teacher shoved her off to the side. All the other kids were on the risers. They were all participating in the musical event. There she sits all by herself, isolated to the side, while everyone is participating. Everyone's having fun. Really, really mean. That's mean. Mom gets mad, films it, puts it up on TikTok, and criticizes the school, right? So that's what happened, correct?
That's right.
Okay, so adults treating a child with dismissive indifference, if not overt meanness. Mom gets mad, puts it on TikTok, criticizes the school, it goes viral. Then what happens?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So this is a Wisconsin mom. She posted it's a really short TikTok. And what it does is it explains why she decided to homeschool her daughter. After seeing her daughter, like you said, she's seated separately on the stage away from her classmates at this school concert. And she didn't name the school district. She didn't name a teacher. She just said, look, this is what happened. This is the moment we decided to homeschool. So instead of engaging with her concerns, after this went viral on TikTok, the school district sent police to her home.
What?
And they sent law enforcement to her home. Right. And I get why people are outraged about that. We are too. The school district then followed it up with a cease and desist letter accusing her of defamation without, by the way, identifying any false statement in the post that was allegedly defamation. It's not. So, I mean, we can get into the details, but Will took this case because criticizing how a public school treats your child is protected by the First Amendment. Government officials cannot use police or attorneys to intimidate parents into silence.
Police came to her house, I think, according to the New York Post, twice.
Yes.
And she got a cease and desist letter. So let's first take the police. Then we'll get to cease and desist because I'm not sure how government has rights. Maybe you can walk me through that, Corey. But let's start with the police. Why on earth, or what were the police told that made them go visit a woman?
Yeah, I think it's clear. It's important to be clear about how this escalated because it is the school district and specifically the school district's attorney who suggested that law enforcement go show up on her doorstep. And look, I appreciate law enforcement officers for respectfully, they actually did acknowledge her constitutional rights. And he didn't force her to take it down. He said, look, you can keep it up, but you might want to take it down. Okay. And he was polite and professional. But look, if I were in their shoes, I wouldn't have shown up at the home at all. The problem here is the school. And I don't believe the police should be showing up at people's homes for things that they post on social media, especially when they aren't threatening.
Well, this wasn't threatening. And even if she had named the school district and even if the mom had named the teacher, even if that had happened, she has a constitutional right to do that. And I'm with you. That police officer should have said to that attorney, no, you're nuts. No, I'm not going to go show up at a nice lady's door who just posts an innocuous TikTok. Go away. But that didn't happen. So the police do deserve criticism, but an attorney should know better than to suggest the police be called, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, Scarlett Johnson actually posted about this on X. I think she said it really well. Police at the door essentially saying, Why were they there? A mom posted a video of her disabled daughter being sidelined at a holiday concert. Her words, "This was the moment we decided to homeschool." And then that was called defamatory. I mean, this is why Will is involved, is because this speech is protected, and government officials don't have authority to silence criticism. That's a very well-established legal principle. And look, this was uncomfortable for the school. It went viral, but that doesn't negate her constitutional right.
It was uncomfortable for the school, but, unless you knew the mom, you didn't know what school we were even talking about. So nobody has any legitimate claim, even at being uncomfortable, except that their own hearts tell them what a horrible situation that was to treat that little girl so badly. Now, if that makes you uncomfortable, it should. That means maybe you've still got a soul. But other than that, it goes viral on TikTok, big deal. Nobody even knows where it is. So let's get to this idea of defamation. How can a government body, a school, it's a government body, how can you defame a government? I'm trying to figure that one out, just sort of generally. And then secondly, what is going on with these school district attorneys? Because cease and desist letters to parents aren't limited to Pittsville, Wisconsin. It happened to a mother in Sun Prairie. It happened to a reporter in a national reporter from the Verona School District, and other parents have been threatened with cease and desist as well from school district attorneys.
Yeah, so to your first point, and we point this out in our letter, which we sent to the school's attorney, and it's available on our website. We also posted, by the way, a copy of the cease and desist that the mother received. So if anyone's interested in seeing the threat that she received, that's available on there. But under the First Amendment, a school district, as a governmental body, can't actually sue for defamation. The U.S. Supreme Court has really recognized that prosecutions for libel on government have no place in the American system of jurisprudence. So that's kind of a core legal principle. And like we said earlier, the attorney who threatened her never identified anything that she said or posted that was defamatory. And to your second point, you mentioned a few examples. For us here at Will, this is the third case in which Will represented parents that were sent cease and desist letters from school districts containing legal threats. And if it's happening in the school context, like you said, it's probably happening with other governmental entities. And it's in Wisconsin. One of our cases was in Iowa. And these are individuals that, in our cases, parents that were just expressing views that the school officials didn't like. And in each one of those instances, the speech was lawful. The speech was constitutionally protected. And I think that's really important, because what we do here at Will is protect people's constitutional right to speak out, to criticize the government. It's a fundamental principle behind every type of case like this.
Corey, the thing is that, these parents reached out, or someone helped them reach out to you. How many times is this happening? And you see a threat from a lawyer, cease and desist for defamation. Who's an expert? What average mom is an expert, or average dad is an expert? That's prior restraint. Those are attorneys who swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, overtly engaging in prior restraint. And how many parents don't call Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty and don't know that this is absolute intimidation?
Yeah, that's why we exist. That's why I'm glad that this parent was willing to share her story, because I want school districts to know, I want parents to know that, what this is, when it comes down to it, is intimidation. They're trying to intimidate parents into silence. And I'm glad to be able to, represent this mom, to share her story, because school districts need to stop this behavior. Governmental entities need to stop this behavior. They're, now in this case, even just using law enforcement to pressure parents into silence. And, I'm upset with what I saw in the video. As, we have it up on our social media. You can learn more about the actual video. But what I'm even more upset about, honestly, is the fact that the school thought they could force this mom to take it down. So that's not on, that is important, not on any specific issue dealing with the school, but it applies to every government entity in our lives.
Yeah, and then they send the police, which, of course, again, if you're a normal, good person, you react, in a very predictable way to a police officer knocking on your door or to a letter, an official letter from an attorney. You react in a very specific way, and the way is almost always compliance. Oh, I'm sorry. Because you're like, did I do something wrong? You don't want to be a bad person. You don't want to break the law. It's sheer intimidation. It is likely happening at a scale that we're not quite appreciating because not everybody calls you for assistance here. But the thing is, don't be silent. Don't be silent. Don't let them scare you. Mm-hmm. You exist, Corey, all the great attorneys at Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. You exist to be the people, to be the force that gets the government back in line. They should behave themselves anyway. They don't. But you can reach out to Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty if you've ever experienced this. The second thing, the school board has to mete out some consequences for this. I think this seems to me to be something that's in the laps of the school board now. They can, in closed session, discuss, maybe even reprimands for the people involved in this.
Yeah, I think, our letter asks for a response from the attorney, and school attorneys should understand that sending police to a parent's home, sending a cease and desist like this, over criticism of a school district, which, like we said, didn't even name the district, but those actions are inconsistent with the First Amendment, these long-established constitutional rights that parents have. And by the way, parents should be advocating for their children. So, in terms of the legal side of it, right now we're exploring all of our options. We hope to hear that, the district acknowledges what they did was wrong. We'll have to wait and see. But on the parent side of it, we just want them to know you have a right to speak out about your child's education. This is a constitutional right. There are clear constitutional boundaries between government authority and private speech, and that's why Will is involved, is to protect those rights.
Yeah, and understand, you have a lot of leeway as well. You can say really, really, really mean things about the government. You can. It's legal. You can't threaten to hurt any individual person or, blow up buildings unless, of course, you're in Minneapolis and, the governor has declared war on the federal government. But you have a right to criticize your government in really aggressive ways. I mean, certainly a TikTok video absolutely qualifies.
Yeah. I mean, that's not what was happening in this case, but there is case law that, people have a right to criticize their government and invite dispute. There's case law that says that explicitly. So the other thing I want to mention is another thing Scarlett posted online. She cites her case in which we represented her, McCudden versus Johnson, where a Wisconsin court held that opinions and subjective assessments are not defamation, essentially, just
right.
To kind of paraphrase. And here in this case, we have a parent that's sharing her own experience, expressing her view, saying this is the moment we decided to homeschool. That's not defamation.
That's not even defamation, even if it were directed at a person. That's just an opinion. Corey Brewer, I'm so glad you guys are out there. I'm really glad someone reached out on behalf of this mom. And thanks so much for joining me on the program today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.